You know, in the wild world of self-driving cars, there are a ton of fascinating decisions being made. But one that always stood out to me was Waymo's choice of the Jaguar I-Pace for its robotaxi fleet. I mean, out of all the cars in the world, why that one? Well, let's decode it.
Seriously, think about it for a second. Why would a tech giant like Waymo, a leader in autonomy, team up with a luxury car brand? It might not seem like the most obvious match, but as we're about to see, this was no random choice. It was a super deliberate move designed to solve a really specific puzzle.
Because, you see, picking a car for a robo-taxi service isn't anything like buying a car for yourself. It's a whole different ballgame. You're trying to solve this giant, complex puzzle that involves tech, the passenger experience, and of course, scaling up to a massive operation.
And honestly, the only way to really get why the I-Pace was the answer is to first understand the question. Waymo didn't just go car shopping. No, first they had to create a blueprint for the perfect robotaxi.
So what they did was they basically created this master checklist, a blueprint of everything the ideal autonomous vehicle had to have. These were the non-negotiables. Any car that wanted to be part of the Waymo fleet had to tick every single one of these boxes.
So, what was on the list? Well, here are the 4 big pillars of that blueprint. Number 1, it needed all-day endurance. 2, you had to be able to integrate Waymo's tech seamlessly. 3, the passenger experience had to be absolutely top-notch. And finally, number 4, it needed to be a scalable foundation that you could build a giant fleet on. Okay, so with that blueprint in mind, enter the Jaguar I-Pace. Let's run it through that very same checklist and see exactly how it stacks up against Waymo's pretty demanding requirements.
First up on the checklist, endurance. I mean, think about it. A robotaxi that's constantly sitting at a charging station isn't making any money, right? It needs to be out on the road, picking up passengers for as many hours as possible on a single charge. So how did the I-Pace solve this one?
With this number right here, a massive 90 kilowatt-hour battery. That's the key. It gives the car the kind of long-range legs it needs to operate for hours and hours, maximizing its uptime. So right away, that's a huge check mark for the first requirement.
All right, next up, tech integration. And this is a huge one. You can't just, bolt Waymo's super sophisticated suite of LiDAR, radar, and computers onto any old car and expect it to work. The car's basic architecture has to be ready for it.
And here's the secret sauce. The I-Pace wasn't some gas car that they later turned into an electric one. No, it was born electric from day one. And that ground-up design meant it had a modern, clean electrical architecture, which made it way, way easier for Waymo's engineers to wire their systems right into the car's brain. Think of it like this. For Waymo, the I-Pace wasn't some clunky renovation project. It was a clean canvas. It was a platform that was practically inviting them to integrate their technology. And boom, that's checklist item number 2, done and dusted. Okay, so the car can drive all day, and the tech fits like a glove. But what about the single most important person in this whole equation, the passenger? A robotaxi service is going to live or die based on that rider experience. It has to feel practical, comfortable, and frankly, a little bit premium. And this is where the I-Pace just shines. It's an SUV, so it's the perfect size for city streets, not too big, but with plenty of room inside for people and all their stuff. And because it's a high-end EV, the ride is just incredibly quiet and smooth. The key here is that Waymo wasn't just trying to show off their tech, they were trying to offer a genuinely premium, comfortable ride. So we've ticked off 3 boxes, but that 4th and final requirement? Well, it goes way beyond the car's specs. It's about the bigger picture, the strategy behind how you actually build a fleet of thousands of these things. Because look, having one really cool prototype is great, but the real challenge, the billion-dollar question, is can you build thousands of them? This is all about scalability. And for that, you need more than just a good car. You need a great partner. And this is why the partnership with Jaguar Land Rover was just so brilliant. It was a total win-win. Waymo got a scalable, factory-supported car that they could integrate their tech into deeply. And what did Jaguar get? They got access to the world's leading self-driving tech and a clear path into the future of transportation. It was perfect. That partnership was the absolute key. It's what turned the I-Pace from just a really nice consumer EV into a platform that could be specifically built and modified for autonomous driving at a massive scale. And with that, the final crucial box is checked. So when you put all of these pieces together, the endurance, the tech readiness, the fantastic passenger experience,
and that scalable partnership, you start to realize the I-Pace wasn't just a random choice. It was the Goldilocks choice. It was the car that was just right. It had just the right amount of battery for all-day driving, it was just the right size for city streets, it had just the right architecture for all of Waymo's tech, and it delivered just the right level of premium comfort for passengers.
And that's the real takeaway here. The Jaguar I-Pace didn't become the Waymo car because it was just a good option. It became the Waymo car because it was the right option. The only one at the time that perfectly nailed every single one of Waymo's technical and strategic needs for their robotaxi service. But this all leads to a really fascinating final thought, right? The I-Pace was the perfect existing car to adapt for autonomy. But what happens next? What happens when companies start designing cars from the ground up with no steering wheel, no pedals, built purely for autonomy from scratch? Now that is where this whole story is going to get even more interesting.